All right, Chief. Tell me about going to Chicago, Ferguson area to talk about what happened there. Did you actually go to Ferguson?
No, we went. We were in Chicago. The Police Executive Research Forum, which is a think tank for the policing profession, convened all the major city chiefs, and they invited us to discuss with the St. Louis County Police Department the challenges they faced. But also present was the New York Police Department, talking about their incident with the choking and death
Which
of
happened
that.
just previous to this incident.
Right, and so we had a very lively discussion about the crossroads we feel like the law enforcement profession is in at this point with our struggle with keeping the public's trust and confidence in our profession.
And talk for a minute about those crossroads, sir.
Well, first of all, transparency should rule the day in our profession. We're public servants, so we answer directly to the public. And the discussion hinged on the leadership it takes to be transparent, because transparency shows your flaws, it shows your mistakes. And so you create more criticism with transparency, but it's part of the life we chose as public servants, and the leadership it takes to get there is really vital to our profession getting through this cycle of hyper criticism, I believe, around police shootings, use of force, just officer actions overall, and keeping the trust of the public is our top priority.
What did you share about our experience here with what almost happened in Dixon Circle? What did you share with those folks?
Right, and not only Dallas, but Dallas was front and center in the discussion here, and that is unusual. Usually it's New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, the bigger big cities. But we were front and center because of the Dixon Circle issue, because the lessons learned were you need to get in front of your police of all shootings and answer questions about the facts that you know. And the risk are facts might change, but on the other side of it, in balance, rumor takes over and conspiracy take over and historical perspectives take over, because some of these communities that we're in oftentimes don't have the best experiences with police. There's history of abuse in these communities, and so it's easy to believe a conspiracy or a rumor that an officer shot someone in the back or an officer shot someone with their hands up if you don't fill that void with whatever facts you do know. And also accountability is important, not just sharing facts, but also holding officers accountable, holding your department accountable, holding yourself accountable as a leader to take those tough actions on officers. If that includes discipline, it might include firings, it might include charging an officer. And we talked about the leadership it takes to make all those things happen so that you can keep the trust of the public.
This is really a new way of thinking for many in law enforcement. And did you find the folks there at this conference receptive to what you were saying, the chiefs of Ferguson and those folks in St. Louis County?
Mostly receptive, but there are some law enforcement agencies in the country that are restricted based on union contracts at doing some of these things. And we're fighting the same type of a battle with our unions over our firings, our charging officers, our officers being indicted, wanting to change policy, wanting to restrict management influence over policies. And so we are headed in a direction where we obviously have to negotiate with unions, but at the same time, not so much so that we jeopardize the public's trust and confidence. And so we have to find that right balance. Most of what we were saying to the group was received well. There was still some consternation about the risk of losing the cops. So, because we asked our cops to do some very dangerous things. We asked them to put their lives on the line. And so you don't want to go so far with your policies and be tone deaf to what effects it have on the police culture, the police psyche. And so we're trying to find the right balance here in Dallas. I think we're getting it right. We still have a ways to go. We're not perfect. We're still flawed. We hire people to do this tough job, and so people are flawed. And so we have to make sure we negotiate in the right frame of mind, and not so much so that we don't maintain the public's trust. I keep repeating that, and I can't say that enough. We're public servants. We answer to the public, and so we need to ensure that that's the top priority, not so much so whether officers are happy. We can work on happy. We can't lose the public's trust, because that's very easy to lose very difficult to gain trust. And so with the balance on those two extremes, we try to find the right position on all the issues, particularly around officer-involved shootings.
You know, the interesting thing, one of the things I thought was interesting is that about 10 days, 2 weeks into the crisis in Ferguson, there was an officer-involved shooting in St. Louis that we never would have known about absent this and all the media being in Ferguson. And the response there was very much like what we see here. Immediately, their chief was on the street, and as soon as he had information, was giving it out.
Yes.
And a couple of days after that, there was a shooting of a mentally ill man, apparently, in Los Angeles. And that, too, something found itself in the headlines, and they were trying to get in front of it, as you say. That's not what happened in Ferguson. We didn't hear from them immediately. And do you think that's kind of what added to the emotional fire, if you will?
Yes, it did. And the police chief in St. Louis talked about that, getting out in front. And then the St. Louis County folks talked about not getting out in front and how it led to. But for critics, that's just part of it. If you remember, the officer's name not being released became a point of contention, almost a rally cry for the crowd. And we discussed, and I interjected, it's not the officer's name that's it's the point of contention with people. It's the officer's use of force history. So you have the name, now you can research the use of force history. Has he been racially profiling? Has this person used force inappropriately before? Have the officers been involved in other shootings that weren't proved to be justified? So when you hold or withhold the officer's name, now you add to the conspiracy. You're hiding the history as well. And so it's really important for leaders in law enforcement to understand releasing an officer's name is important to the community, but also releasing that officer's history and just being accountable to the public regarding maybe some of their apprehensions about whether we're doing everything right.
You know, and race shouldn't be an issue, but it always is, it seems like. How important is it to have in Hispanic communities, African American communities, police officers who reflect that community, who, as we saw at Dixon Circle, know the people and can approach some folks in a different way? We saw that with Epperson down on Dixon Circle. Right,
and again, we do a really good job with diversity here in Dallas, but our profession struggles with it kind of broadly. We're competing for the same candidates, particularly Hispanics. It's the growing population in all states, particularly in Texas, and we can do a better job here in Dallas on recruiting Hispanics, and we're actually putting together a new program to try to do better. We do a really good job recruiting blacks on the department. We reflect the community here with our number of officers that are African American. We're halfway there when it comes to Hispanics. We need to do a really good job over the next several months to really improve our Hispanic diversity.
How are you going to try to do that?
Well, I think we need to expand the Hispanic recruiting team. We at one time had 2 or 3 people dedicated. I think you need maybe 5 or 6, maybe even 10 people going out to the right parts of Texas to recruit Hispanics to this profession. I like the idea of homegrown, and so I'm born and raised here in this city. We have a healthy Hispanic community here, 40% of the population, so we ought to be able to reflect the community with community folks. And I think that's a reflection of the department to not be able to do that. And we are really going to reemphasize homegrown recruits more so, and I think that's going to help us quite a bit. Because it's tough for almost anyone to leave home, but the Hispanic community is a tight-knit community. If you're going to go to South Texas, they're apprehensive about leaving their parents, leaving loved ones, and coming up to Dallas, the big city. And so, but big city Hispanics are comfortable because their family's here. Why not focus on that? So that's going to be one of the first things we try to change is recruit homegrown and see if we can better reflect.
Okay. Lastly, I know you shared lessons that you learned here with the whole Dixon Circle incident. What did you learn at this conference that you can bring back to Dallas or that may in some way help you even be better prepared for the next time there's a flashpoint in our community, if there is?
I think what I've learned is the next steps beyond transparency has to be accountability. Even if it means unions might call for your job as chief. You can't be so concerned with holding on to the job that you don't do the right thing. And you just need to be willing to walk away if that's what it's called for, to do the right thing, meaning if an officer does something to break your policy, that get indicted, you don't need to be apprehensive about someone who broke the law according to a secret grand jury and taking the right employment action. And it's not going to be popular, and you just need to realize as a chief, you're a caretaker of this organization, you're passing through, but at the end of the day, people expect you and demand that you do the right thing. And you help your organization even maintain trust and confidence when you do have critical incidents where your officers did the right thing. And because you've done things in the past, almost the immediate past, where you were willing to take tough actions, people trust that you're saying the right things when it comes to defending officers that need to be defended. So you need to strike the right balance, but the next steps beyond transparency is accountability. You can't have one without the other. You got to walk the walk as well as talk the talk when it comes to transparency and accountability.
Okay, very good, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shaun.
I think it's going to work.